I've got to tell you this little story here. Look, and this is, if you've watched the video on the homepage of my YouTube channel here called Defeat and What Happened to Me, the channel purpose. If you watched that video, I sort of said that I had this boxing match, I lost. I woke up the next morning, and I was aware of my thoughts, because obviously the room which I woke up in, my bedroom, was quiet, but my mind was really quiet as well. So I was aware of every thought which arose within my mind, And anyway, so I had that happened, and then after that, I told a few people about it, and they said, "Oh, you've had some kind of spiritual experience or enlightening experience, or all these different things." So naturally, I started looking on YouTube for all things spiritual and all these kind of things. And next thing you know, I was deep down that rabbit hole. And look, let me tell you this: it's in that video. The video on my homepage called Defeat and What Happened to Me, ultimately I ended up saying that any spiritual practice is a load of nonsense. And I want to tell you why. To me, I said that because what I ended up doing after losing that boxing match, as I say, the coming months after, I ended up, because I was aware of my thoughts, I was, and how I was always thinking about nonsense, as most of us are, on the way to work, when you're stuck in traffic, even when you're at work, or even when you're doing, we're always thinking. I've done endless videos about this. I'm sure anyone would agree that we're always thinking. Now, so naturally, I got myself into this. I started meditating. A couple of months after I lost that boxing match, I got into meditation. And that was my spiritual practice. I used to wake up in the morning about 5 o'clock, as I still do now, except I don't meditate anymore. Masturbate, maybe. No. So I used to get up at 5. And before I'd do my workout, I would sit there. I'd sit on the floor. I'd sit on a pillow so I didn't get a sore ass. And I'd have the intention to stop thinking. I was sitting there with the intention to achieve a state of a silent mind. I was trying to achieve this state of a state where I was not thinking. I was trying to achieve non-thinking. Anyway, so I'd sit there on my pillow on the floor, and then this is what would happen, right? I'd sit there, and then all of a sudden, after 10 seconds, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute maybe, I would sit there and I would start thinking to myself, "Oh, I've done it. This is beautiful. This is so nice. This is so nice not to be thinking." And I'd look out the window, and I'm lucky that I've got trees outside my house, only a few, and a lovely old building, a really old-fashioned building right outside where I live. So I'd sit there on the floor, and I'd be thinking, "I've done it. I've stopped thinking. Oh, this is lovely. Wish I'd have known how to do this years ago, Are you following me? I'd be sitting there thinking this. Do you see? In other words, I'd be sitting there thinking how lovely it is that I'm now not thinking about anything. I'd be sitting there thinking that. I don't know whether you understand that. I'd be sitting there thinking how lovely it is that I'm no longer thinking. But I'd be thinking that to myself. And this went on for months. About a good couple of months. I'd get up in the morning, 5 o'clock, sit on my pillow, look out the window, and I'd sit there and have, I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. So my point is this, and this is why I watch this. Look, if you're trying to stop thinking, how do you know when you've stopped thinking? If you have the intention to stop thinking, if you've made an achievement to stop thinking, well, the only way you know you've achieved it is when you think that you've achieved it. I've said this before. So, like me, I had the intention to stop thinking because I saw how I'd spent all my life thinking. Every day I was thinking. So, naturally, I created this intention to achieve non-thinking. And so then all I was doing, how do you know when you've achieved it? Because you think you've achieved it. Like me, I sat there. Oh, I've done it. I've stopped thinking. This is me thinking that I've achieved not thinking and how lovely it is. Oh, dear. So that's why it took me a good couple of months to see this. And when I saw that, what am I doing here? What am I doing? All I'm doing is thinking that I was... So instead of going about my day, thinking about what so-and-so said to me yesterday, or what I might be having for dinner later, or what... As most of us do, we all think about all these kind of things. What am I going to do later? Oh, what if I see that guy, in the shop later who I don't know, any kind of old, nonsense. So instead of thinking that, I was going about my day thinking about not thinking, and then thinking that I'd achieved it because I'd then be thinking, oh, this is great, I've done it, I'm not thinking anymore. Took me months to see that this is what I was doing. As soon as you see it, you can't unsee it. As soon as you see something like that, as clear, as soon as you see something clearly, you cannot unsee it. I was gonna come up with an analogy for this, seeing and not being able to unsee, but I can't off the top of my head, so I won't. So, do you know what I'm saying? Does anyone know what I'm saying? Part of me making this video is because I watched another guy recently on YouTube, a so-called spiritual teacher. I watched one of his videos. I didn't really agree with what all he'd said, so I left him a comment. He replied, I replied, back and forth a few times. Maybe I've upset him. I don't know. I didn't mean to. I didn't have the intention to disrespect him. I just didn't agree with what he said. And he was talking about, ultimately having this sort of practice or whatever. Anyway, that's kind of what spurred me on to make this video. So if you understand what I'm saying here, don't create a spiritual practice in order to stop thinking, to achieve a state where you're not thinking about anything, because it's nonsense. If you understand what I'm saying here, hopefully it'll save you some time. Oh dear.